It looks like it is 4 o'clock on my time, and I am going to go ahead and get started with the webinar today. So welcome everyone, and I'm Heather Lamb, and we're very excited that you're here today. I think I'm going to close out of some of these windows. So let me hang on just a second. I'm getting a little message here. Hopefully you can still see me with everything. So let me close out a couple of these windows here. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. All right. All right, good. We can still see. All right, so good, we can still see. So I just wanted to, I had to close out a couple of things. Sometimes the GoToWebinar stresses out the operating system. So I wanted to pull up and notice that you are welcoming everyone from the different states. So Tara's running the background. So we've got Jeff and Monica. If you'd like to, this is a great way to ask questions. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that, and we're going to go ahead and get started. I am recording this session, so definitely you'll want to check back on the archive. And don't forget, as I said, these are the resources. You should have received an email with that link as well. If you just want to follow along, that's excellent. This is going to be a little bit of a review and a little bit of just kind of helping you to be more comfortable with the table, but also the table toolkit. So let me go through this just a bit. So we're just going to do our quick introductions. The purpose of the webinar, we've got support documents that I've included in the file. Just a reminder about the table software. I'm finding still a lot of people that haven't either updated their table software or their toolkit. And then we're going to do a little bit of a review and talk about resources. So that's our agenda today. I'm glad that you're here, and I hope that you'll learn something possibly new that you didn't know, or help you increase your knowledge just a bit with doing, creating or using the table in your classrooms or your learning environments. So I'm Heather Lamb. I'm the education consultant out of Texas, and joining me is Tara Mattingly, and Tara's running the back side of our table webinar. So if you have any questions, she will be answering those questions, and let me hang on just a second. Sorry, I forgot to do something. I want to make Tara an organizer so she can help me run those back sides of those questions. So, so let me make her an organizer. Now she'll be able to help me run this webinar. So I've been off for a little bit. If you've emailed me, you've got an out and off office, so I'm getting back into the swing of things. So for some of you that know me, I had my hip replaced. So I've been off, so I'm getting back all into the swing of just going to be moving and going, and it's going to be exciting. So with that, Tara she is now going to be able to answer those questions and follow along on GoToWebinar, on today's Meet. All right, that's a mouthful. So as always, these sessions are recorded and they're archived on our YouTube channel, Smart Table Friend. So we're going to talk about another way that you'll be able to find those resources. So why do we do this? Well, it's, collectively creating, helping you to build your skills and techniques, sharing those best practices. Last month we had Brandy Magdos, who shared some really nice tips and tricks, and I'm hoping she's going to be able to join us in November to even go deeper and share some more tips and tricks. She's had a table for a couple of years, and she moved from early grades up into 5th grade and is finding uses of her table, and then also to network with other people and find out commonalities, or to help people to better use the table. It's a pretty exciting, I think, a tool in the classroom that really invites what a lot of people are looking for in their classroom. It doesn't it doesn't take the place of the smartboard if you have that, or any interactive whiteboard, or even iPads. It's really, you know, a lot of times we're in that passive learning zone, and this allows for that really high level communication and that collaboration and, you know, that true working it together environment. So how can you participate? Some of you have already figured that out. You can go to that Today's Meet session, which is October table, or you can raise your hand, and there's questions that you can ask. So someone's already asked a few questions, so keep those questions coming, and we'll answer those either verbally or electronically, depending on the question. So if you do, we'd always love it if you would like to ask a question verbally. There is a raise your hand feature where you can raise your hand, and if you have a headset, it works really well, but if not, you can ask your question through your computer, and if you inadvertently raise your hand, you can always put it back down. So it's funny, teachers want all those verbal answers, but a lot of times in these kind of environments, nobody wants to raise their hand. So it's okay, promise. So just a reminder that we do have the table software, and I've linked this file. I know many of you are not Smart Notebook users, and so I have included the resources, some of the resources, but I've also included a PDF file of this notebook file. You could also use smartnotebook.com to view this, and some links within here. So I've given you some links. I don't want to take a lot of time with this because I really want to get into the meat of this, but the Smart Table User's Guide is really, really good. And if you're looking for an excellent, it's not just a high level, it really gets into the nitty-gritty of the table as well as the table toolkit. This is one user's guide that I would highly encourage you to look at and possibly print out and have accessible. It does a really good job of explaining. There's visuals. It's a really good user's guide. I will also remind you that the table has new software. It's software version 3.1. So if I were to go to www.smarttech.com, we still got some people, and I were to go into the support tab, I can go to the software downloads piece. And in here, if I scroll down to the Smart Table, let me scroll down here. Right here, here's where you're going to find the table software, the toolkit, and the applications. So there is a new software update. Software is version 3.1. We'll talk a little bit about updating the table. There's a new way that you can update it, or you can do it the way that we have traditionally done that. If I click on that link takes me to where I can find those support documents right here. So here, if I click on those support document tab, then I'll find that user's guide that I was referring to. So I highly encourage you to look at that. So just some basics, what I just referred to. So we've got the Smart Table software, which goes on your table, and the Smart Table toolkit that goes on your computer. The toolkit doesn't go on the table, nor does the table software go on your computer. So just that distinction. You can, if your table has Wi-Fi, and if the Wi-Fi is hooked up, you can update your table directly from the table, which I'll talk about this, and I have updated a table, a 230i or a 442i is our new table. If you don't have accessibility to the Wi-Fi, you can always download the software that I just showed you, plug it into either one of these USB ports, and you'll be prompted to update your table. So the old-fashioned way we manually had to do it, that still works. So just that, remember that the table has been updated, the table software has been updated. The table toolkit is version 2.6, it hasn't. So just a little bit of vocabulary. to get us started. So we've got two modes. We've got our student mode and we've got our teacher mode. Our student mode, most of the time when you turn on the table, it may automatically go to the student mode. To get from the student mode in the teacher mode, there's a couple of ways, but I just wanted you to remember that this is this student mode. The student mode is these are called activity packs. And so this is what the students will interact with, is an activity pack. And then you have the teacher mode. The teacher mode is where, whoops, let me change that. Where you would potentially change your learners. If you had to calibrate your table, you would do this. If you needed to see which version of the software, you could do it from here. Change your volume, and remember that on the 442i, the new table, you've got 4 headphone jacks that are independent of the speaker system. On the 230i, you just have those one speaker system. And then your settings, whether you have a 230i or a 442i. And then your activity packs. This is where you're going to choose this. You'll probably spend most of your time going between the activity packs. So that's teacher mode and student mode. And then, whoops. So let me change that because now it's version 3.1. So version 3.1 was released on 9/23. So there is, if you have version 2.6 on your table, you can do a direct update. And what I mean by that is this. So if you were to go to, let me go back here. If you were to go to the teacher menu or teacher mode and you were to click on this about the Smart Table software right here. So if you were to click on that, let me get a pen here. Whoops. And it would bring up a menu that looks like, let me click through here, this. So when you get this menu right here, over up here is under technical support, you will be able to now check for updates directly from the table. But you must be connected to the internet to do this. This is how, if you're a Smart Notebook user, this is how, or any of our products, this is how you can check for updates. So now you can actually update the table from the table. Now, let's say that you do need to update your table and you don't have access to the internet or for whatever reason maybe the internet's down, then you would go and you would download the file, you would plug it into the USB, and then it's going to prompt you and it's going to take you through the updating process. So it's going to remove the old software and update the new. Now, there's been a couple of questions that I've received recently. Both of the tables have an appliance or a computer. You don't need to update the operating system on these. You don't need to do any of those things to the table. The table needs to stay and run how it's been running. So like you don't need to update or do any extra firewalling or things like that. You need to just let that part of the software do its thing and be like it is. So don't update any of the operating system within the tables on here. So just let that be, and then update the table software. The table software will also, a question that I get a lot is, do I need to download Smart Notebook to use Smart Notebook on these tables? And the answer is no, because the software that you're downloading has a special version of Notebook that runs within the activity pack. So if you look back here, let me go back to, whoops, this page. Let me minimize this and delete this. So if I go back to here and look, you'll notice that I have this icon right here. This is Smart Notebook. So that is part of the table software. So you don't have to run an independent file to run notebook files. So they all run within the toolkit. So I get that question a lot. So you don't have to do any extra things. So some other things, some of the other things that there with the new software, I see a question about can you delete? So I'm going to talk about that. That's a great question. So I'm going to show you how to do that from the table. So I'm going to do something so that you can see this. So there's two ways to get from student mode to teacher mode. You can access it by plugging in a USB drive. And when you plug it in, if you're in student mode, it'll pop into teacher mode. And then to get back to student mode, you just remove the USB. Or you can... So I have this little circle down here, so you can place, and this is kind of tricky, so it takes a little bit of practice. You can put 5 fingers in the center of the table, and opposite of the power button, there's a little cog in the corner. So if you see that little cog wheel down here, you can, so you have to, don't pick up your hand, you can press 5 fingers and then press on the cog, and it'll do the same thing as the USB. If you can't get that step, I would encourage you just to use the USB, and just, it takes a little bit of practice. It's kind of a simultaneous touch and lift at the same time. But you have to have 5 fingers. Don't spread your fingers out too far. They just need to be kind of cupped, and press down, and then get that cog and touch that cog and lift up almost at the same time. It's a little tricky, but you can get it, I think. I have confidence. Or you can just plug in a USB. All right, so there's that little cog in the corner. So that would, if I wanted to get out of this mode, I would press on that cog and it would take me back to student mode. So that's how you get between teacher mode and student mode. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to show, so we had a question about how to delete things. So I'm going to show you something. So I'm going to drag this over here. And I have I'm going to show you how to get and how to delete lessons and things off of your table. So here is teacher mode right here. So if I click on this little link right, or this little icon right here, it'll bring up, and it brings up what I was talking about. So if I go to technical support, you can notice that I need to update the software here. So there's that check for update. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's as easy as it is. I'm connected to the internet. I'm going to X out of that. Here's where I change my volume. Here's where I change my learners. Right here, this is on the table. So this right here is where I'm going to focus right now. So we had a great question about how to delete things. So I want you to focus with me because I get a lot of questions. Hopefully I've answered how to get in between the two teacher mode and student mode. So I'm in teacher mode right now. So what I'm going to do is click on that activity packs. And this is going to take me to what is going to show up on your table. So notice that I have, this is all the things that right now are in my hard drive of my table. And you can notice that I have some folders, I have some different apps across here. This is everything that's that's downloaded on my table. So there was a question that somebody said, well, how do I get rid of something if I don't want it? Well, let's say that I used this main idea and I used it, I don't need it anymore. So as soon as I select it, now this is with the current software, you need to have, this is software, I believe 2.6 and above, but if you update your software on your table, it'll look more, version 2.6, the tabs are a little bit different. So this is 3.0, and I'll update my table to 3.1, and it'll even have some more features. But right now the question was, how do I get rid of it? Well, notice down in the bottom, I can delete it. It's going to say, do you want to delete that? And I'm going to say, yes, it's gone now. So it's like deleting something from my desktop or from my hard drive of my computer. So that's as easy as it is. If you are running the earlier version of the software where it was a big long list, it's not so easy to delete. So that's why I would highly, highly encourage you to update your software on your table. It's much more manageable, much more user-friendly to the teacher, and the management of it is much greater. So I have, if I want to go in and delete, I could do that. I do have a USB drive connected to my, so you can see what I have on my computer right here. So here's my USB. So let's say I was at home and I downloaded some table activity packs and I placed them on a USB. I could plug those into the table. So let me click on here and open, and here's that fall fun file that we're going to be using. So that's how that works. So if I had a bunch, then if I wanted to open this or put it on the table, I would click on it, open it, and as soon as I do that, it now is syncing to the table, and I won't have to go through that step again with the USB. So the minute you open it the first time, you've added it to the table. And the last, and we'll do that in a second, you can see that I already have it opened right here. So that's the, I can tell which file I'm going to open up. So you can't have multiple Smart Table activity packs open at the same time. So you'll have one, and then you just, it's kind of a repetitive cycle. The last thing I want to share with you is the Smart Exchange. So a new feature, when you're connected to the internet, that's another reason why I would highly encourage you. Some of the early versions of the table didn't have Wi-Fi, but that didn't last for very long. You could always plug in an Ethernet cord to plug it. You'd have to kind of go through and plug it into the computer inside of the table, but somehow I would encourage you to get connected to the internet, because when you do, you have quick access to the Smart Exchange. So this is, if I didn't want to download, or if I didn't want to download anything at home, if I didn't want to recreate anything, I just want to use some activity packs straight. And you know, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm teaching, I could download these right here from the table and have some great fun for my students. So let's say I'm working with telling time. My students we're practicing telling time. Notice that I can see where it says to download. When I click on the download button, and I'm not going to download this right now because I'm not sure how big a file this is, and with all the stuff I'm going on, if I click on it, I don't want it to slow it down, but when I download it, it will download it and it'll change this, and that will be my active or my open activity pack. The minute I download it, remember that it's going to go into your table content, so you can always go back and delete it if you don't like it. I encourage teachers to look on the Smart Exchange first, because there might be, you can't really tell a lot from here whether or not that's going to meet your objectives, or if you're Common Core, if it's going to meet those standards that you need. So it's a good shortcut, but I also would encourage you to look on the Smart Exchange to truly see if it's going to meet your needs. You can filter, so you can filter by grade. So if I wanted to say, oh, I only want pre-K, and I want to filter by, maybe I only want pre-K math, then I'm going to do a search. I don't think that, let's see. Well, many of these, I think many of these have multiple grade levels, so because it brought up a lot, like I know fractions is not pre-K, but there's 33 pages that have those key filtering objectives. But maybe, you know, I'm going to go back in here and say, oh, well, maybe adding 2-digit, that's a little bit high probably. So you can see, oh, here's sight words fun. Let's just see. I'm going to see how fast this goes. Oh, it's going pretty fast. I was a little concerned with the other one because it's a publisher content, and sometimes those are pretty robust, which is a good thing. So notice that it downloaded it. If I click open, that's the open activity pack. So when I close out of this, guess what's going to be there? Sight words fun. Also, if I look over here into table content, there is sight words fun that I just, so now it's downloaded here. There are also, so some of you have asked the question about, well, I don't want to create anything, I don't want to do anything on my own, I just want to use some applications. So there are many applications that are not customizable that will also meet your needs. So if I go to file type, I can go and see what kinds of applications there are. And notice, so I'm going to take out, let me go back and take out, I'm going to do all, and I'm going to do all here, and then, because I was only getting those small percentage, of activity packs. Now, these are what's called applications. These applications will run on your table without doing anything. So I'm going to talk today about Scrapbook and Symphony. But maybe you're a pre-K teacher and you're looking for one-to-one relationships. This Marquita is great. It's got little ladybugs that it's matching. These are all applications that don't need any customizing. They might ask you for a few little things as far as, you know, do you want easy, medium, or high? But they kind of run independently. What's nice is I'll show you, you can add these, and if you're into that mode of wanting to create, you might want to add these applications to be part of a whole activity pack, which we'll talk about that. So these are 2 pages of these applications that you might want to download and interact with. Story Stage has been updated for the new table, but it's Scholastic Story Stage. It's got Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, and you can actually record your sounds. Symphony, we're going to see how you can tell that Symphony is installed and Scrapbook is installed. I haven't installed any of the other ones yet. So when I install them, once again, if I look back over here, so there will be, you don't need how this is popping up. When you're on the table, you won't need a keyboard or a mouse. You use your finger and a keyboard will populate. So that's kind of nice. But notice how on my table I have Symphony. And if I come back over here, here's Scrapbook. So I can download them once, and then they're available to use. All right, so hopefully that helped with a little bit with this. And while I have some pictures inside of the table file, and while I'm here, I'm going to talk just a brief minute about the clipboard. So the clipboard, let me make sure that, let's see, I hope that I answered that one question about deleting. So what the clipboard is cool is, let's say you have one table and you're sharing it with 5 teachers. Well, I might want to create a file, and I can have this file and I can rename it, and I'm going to rename this Mrs. Lamb. And I can do this, once again, like I said, I can do this with that keyboard up on my table. So there's my folder right here. And you know, maybe Mrs. Lamb is interested, so let's just go back. Sorry, I'm popping around here. So let's go back to that Sight Words, because you know what? She downloaded that Sight Words activity pack. And that folder, that's what she wants, at least that activity pack, she wants to place that in that folder right now. So if I go, I'm going to take, so notice that I have my folder and it's highlighted. So this is, it's like dragging and dropping activity packs into that folder to kind of manage it. So let me go over to that. So here's my little clipboard. On the table, you're going to press once until you kind of get it like it's movable, and drag it over. And there is that file that's in there, that activity pack. Maybe, let's go back here, and I want to, my students are going to, let me go back here, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to choose all, and I'm going to search for fall, because we're getting ready to have maybe some fall fun. So here's an activity pack that has to do with fall. So the process is I'm going to download it. These are going quite fast, so I hope my internet is being nice to me today. All right, so I have it. If I open it, notice it's here. And what happens over here? It should be, oh, there it is right here. It's in my table content. So I'm going to click on it and hold it until it's movable and drag it over. Now you might say, okay, so that's great, Heather, but how do I get those into that folder? Well, if I click on this, select all, this little options button, I can now click and drag them, and now guess what's in my Mrs. Lamb's folder? Now, what you'll want to do is if, let's say, Mrs. Lamb and Mrs. Mattingly both wanted the fall, Mrs. Mattingly will need to download it again because it doesn't duplicate. So she would need to download fall again and place it in her folder. So right now I've made a recommendation that maybe you have an option of copying it. But she would have to go in and she would need to open it again so that it becomes part of this where I can share from here. Hope that makes sense. You can see that we've got different things here that are in these different groups. So here's animals. These are just different things, that folders that I've created. So it becomes a management system for you. You can always delete the folders after you're done if you don't want to. But remember, if you delete them, you're going to have to go download the activity packs again and then add them. But that's easily, you're not deleting things because probably in most likely cases you either have it saved on your computer somewhere, if it's not on the table, or you're coming from the Smart Exchange. You can also, if this is Mrs. Lamb decides that she doesn't want that to be called Mrs. Lamb, but she wants to be called that group 2, she can save that and name it, let's see, group 2. All right, so let me open this up and just give you a quick little, let's see. Actually, I'm going to switch over, I think. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over. So that's how I would that's how I would say, okay, I'm going to use the fall fun. The fall fun is going to be that file that we're going to use, but I'm going to show it from the table toolkit file. So I'm going to X out of this. I'm going to drag this back over. So we're back to our screen. So hopefully, I do have some pictures in here so that if you wanted to practice, I mean, it's not really, I didn't know if what I was going to show was going to work. So I have some little pretend things here. So that's what those are. I gave you some hints and things to help you with the table file. And then I wanted to really quickly talk about Symphony and Scrapbook before we get into the table activity pack that I have does have Scrapbook and Symphony. Symphony is, so let me go to the next page and show you. Symphony, when you open up Symphony, this is what your screen will look like. So what Symphony allows you to do, let me make this a little bigger, is it allows you to create your own little orchestra. So it's pretty neat in that you can set up, so you could have a student that is playing the drums, the xylophone, you can have handbells, you could have a piano. What's nice about this is that you can record your sounds. There is gosh, I just lost the name of that, but some music teacher needs to tell, tick-tock, tick-tock. Gosh, I'm not a music person. Maybe Tara can chime in. I know somebody's going to know that name, but I think you know what I'm talking about. But what you can do is if I press the record button here, and I have my students playing the music, it's going to record it. I can rewind it and then replay it. And what's even cooler about this is notice that there's a file save, or there's a save button. I can save my symphony and come back to it and see it. I can also save it, put it on my USB, and let's say I am that music teacher, I can plug that USB into the table and save it to that USB and then open it up. It's a MIDI, an MIDI file. It will also notice on the side, it will show the dots that your music is playing. So you might play something on the table and then take it to a piano and see if you can replicate it. But you can record it. It's a MIDI file, so I'm thinking, well, gosh, maybe you can enhance it. I'm not sure, like if with GarageBand or some things like that would work with it. So you could just, I mean, there's probably so many different things that you can do with metronome. That's what it is. Thank you very much. So I couldn't think of that, what that was called, a metronome. I think that you knew what I was talking about, that tick-tock. You can raise this or lower it, so if you want it to go tick-tock, 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 you can do that, or if you want it to go really slow. I know those have different names. But Symphony is an app that I would encourage you. We do have some premium applications. Everything that I'm showing you are all free to use. Some have a little bit of customizing that's available, not many. The idea is it's more like the apps that you might be familiar with if you download things to your tablets. And then the other one is called Scrapbook. And so what I did is I kind of created this and wanted to show you what I did with this. So first of all, I wanted you to draw your attention over here to this little icon right here. So I pressed on this on my table and I get this icon. And right here, this is your Smart Exchange, so you can bring pictures in. So this picture came from the Smart Exchange. Here's the Smart Exchange, and I can choose from. This picture actually was a picture that I downloaded, and I have a USB that has these different pictures in here. So the nice thing about Scrapbook is students can create scrapbooks. They can save them. You can have multiple pages of your scrapbook. And now with version 3.1, you're able to save them and then print them out as a PDF. So that's another reason why you want to update your software. So these are things that you would do on the table. You can, if you press on the little A, you'll get this little option to type your words. So let's say you're describing something. I drew this little pumpkin here that I could have done it in different colors. I can't fill it in, but I can draw things. That what you'll want to do is if you do create something, you can save them. Maybe you have a group of students creating something. There's a little eye in the center. You'll want to have your students to lock it or close the eye so that your students then can't interact and create and change something that somebody else did. So that's just a way that, that one is locked. You can save, you can delete things out of it, you can create a new scrapbook. So it's kind of a fun way to create just a digital portfolio possibly and enhance something that you're learning, but you have access. There's also, if you have a smart document camera, not any regular document camera, but a smart document camera, if you have it plugged into your table, you can actually capture images that way as well, but it needs to be a smart document camera. It doesn't have to be the most current smart document camera, but it needs to be a smart document camera. Then that would be highlighted, and you could, maybe you're having your students show different ways that they could multiply with objects or categorize with objects, and they could create a scrapbook about it and talk about it. So that is Scrapbook and Symphony. All right, so we're going to take a quick poll. So I've given you some questions, or a question, and I wanted to, before we get into the toolkit just a bit, I'm going to start this poll, and I'm curious, based on, before we get started, I'm curious about if you have used or created anything or modified something using the Smart Table Toolkit. I'm just curious if you have or not. Oh, nice. More of you have than I thought, so that's really nice. So it's running kind of neck and neck. All right. So give you a couple more seconds. Okay. So 50% of you said you haven't, and 50% of you said you had. So a nice round number there, which is kind of what I wanted to find out, because I know that last time I kind of zipped through some things. So that's why I wanted to go through, just because I know some of you, hopefully I'll give you some new tips and tricks that maybe you didn't know, but I wanted to help those of you that haven't created anything, maybe to dabble with it just a little bit. It's not hard. It's one of those things that it's very, I say that it's not hard. I've been doing it a while, but it's when I started using it, it's very template-based. Unlike Smart Notebook that has a lot of flexibility, but sometimes flexibility leads to more questions, and you start delving in deeper than you ever wanted to, which is a good bad thing. But it is version 2.6. It is Windows and Mac. I know there was a question that somebody had about their Mac, and I was running the I believe I was running the software. I'm going to check on my computer just to check and see, but we had a question about the Mac. Just like in Notebook, I know that the new Mac software came out. I probably wouldn't, I'm going to confirm about Maverick, but just like Smart Notebook, our developers are working to make sure that Maverick is stable with Notebook, and I'm guessing that's the same thing that they're doing with the table software. So just wanted to put that out there, since that's the newest, greatest Mac software. So don't know the answer yet, but I'm guessing based on Smart Notebook that they are equally checking it out to work with Maverick. So remember that the table software works on your computer, or Table Toolkit works on your computer. And you can tell, so let me, what I'm going to do is, let me X out of here and get over to, so I'm going to open up, so in the file that you have a file that you downloaded, so here we go. So you have that file, the Smart Table file, and inside of it, you have some things from last time, hot spaces and media we talked about last time. This time we're going to focus on hot spots. I did give you the notebook file, and I also converted it to a PDF, as I said. So there is that Fall Fun table file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up and show you. I like to go from the whole to the small, to the parts. I've decided that I like pictures, and I like to see the whole. So this is going to open up that table file. So if you have it opened, or if you just want to watch along, so this is what, remember that file that I opened up on my computer or was showing you on the table. This was what I have: Symphony, I have Scrapbook, I have Media, Hotspots, and Hot Spaces. So I have 5 applications in this activity pack. So last month we focused on Hot Spaces and Media. Today we're just going to do a real brief overview of Hotspots. You'll notice on so this is what my table toolkit looks like. Your table toolkit may not look like mine because I've added applications. So I'm going to talk about how to get those applications added for just a quick second. But what I want to do is show you this Hotspots, what it does. So I have, here's what it looks like when I'm building it. Each one of these, the idea is that the students would have to match the kid to the name. So this would be a great first of the year activity, or it's a one-to-one relationship, or maybe you're matching the librarian to the library, or something that, it's a one-to-one. Maybe you're matching numbers to where they have to count. So it's a one-to-one relationship. So I have, basically when I talked about that it's very step-by-step, you have step 1, you create the activities. Step 2, you create the background. In step 3, you set up your activities. All right, so I have an activity called Who Am I? And then, so I have it, I created it. If I wanted to create a second one, I could do that, but I'm not going to do that today. I would like you to do that. haven't even been watching. I hope Tara, she's been watching those questions and things and taking care of that. This is really one-sided, but I hope that next month we're going to have best practices, and I really want to hear from you next month so that to find out what your questions and answers. So get ready, because I'm going to ask some questions and I want to get some good feedback. So what I did is I have my who am I have my background, and then I have the labels. So this, I'm going to show you what it does, and then we're going to put it together virtually. So I'm going to do a preview, and I'll show you what it would look like if I'm on the table. So this is nice because you probably don't have a table at your house. So this is a nice feature to be able to build things and be able to say, oh, how is this going to look like when I get it actually on my table? So notice that I have all these little pictures of my kiddos. These are pictures that I found off the web using my search strategies. So these pictures are free to use images, and I didn't, so I don't get in trouble with copyright. But what they would do is the students would have to match. So working together, they would match. Now notice that if I place this guy right here under Julie, nothing happens. But if I place over at Jake, and I'm just guessing because I forgot their names, so I wouldn't do that in my classroom. But notice how when I got over here by Ben, this is Ben, and Ben locked in place. So this is called a hot spot activity. So if I come over here, I have George, and then I bet this is Jake. And so the kids are moving these into their right space. And then when they get done, they get the validation. Ding, ding, ding. And that's automatic. So this is what the activity would look like on the table. If I had more activities, then it would automatically populate to the next one. So you might have one activity that focuses on something very specific, and then maybe it scaffolds. So how did I build that? All right, so here's where we have a few minutes to do this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to go to New. And I don't want to save this. Whoops, I didn't want to go there. I want to go to New. So I have a new file, a new activity pack. And in my activity pack for right now, I'm just going to add hotspots here. So we're just going to add one at a time. And this month we're just going to add hotspots. Notice that I have a tab here, or I can click here. And so I am going to, so I have so here's my activity. And I'm going to type it and call it Who Am I? Oops. The kids won't see this. If I did this, and maybe I have 6 activities and I wanted to scaffold it, I can't scaffold it on the table, but what I can do is open this back up and reorder these if I wanted to, and then resave it. So I need, the second step is to create my background. In your folder, I added a background there. So if I click on the folder icon, and I'm going to go to wherever I have that downloaded, and I have it on a removable disk, and I gave you a folder called Hotspots. And in the Who Am I folder, there it says Slide 1. I should have renamed that. So I went to the Hotspots folder. I went to the Who Am I folder in Slide 1. Notice I can crop it. So I'm going to grab those little handlebars, and I can crop my image. I can't resize it. I can crop it. And there's my background. That easy. And I'll talk you how I did a background. I use Smart Notebook to do backgrounds, but you could also use PowerPoint. I actually did it in PowerPoint for this. I created a background, and then you can save backgrounds as JPEGs. I don't know if you knew that, but you could do a file save as, and in your list, instead of just saving it as a PowerPoint, you could save it as a JPEG. Or you could create a background in, I don't know, if you still have kid pics or any kind of paint, You can create backgrounds any way you want, or you could just use a picture as a background. But your background is the bottom like layer. So then I need to step 3, set up my images. And so I have those kids' pictures for you as well. So if I click on that folder again and go back to Hots, I have pictures. So let me click here. There's Ben. If I wanted to change that a little bit, I can. And here is Ben. Now, I'm going to tell you, right here it says show in position, start position. So I'm going to put it Ben on the word Ben. I'm going to do another one. It's my table, hotspots, and here's Christy. I labeled these right. And then I'm going to put Christy on Christy. Now there's a couple of things. I'm going to let you finish that at a later date so you can save this and practice it. There's a couple of things left to do. I want to talk about this. You can add labels. So if you wanted to, if you had something that you wanted to label Christy instead of, and maybe you have pictures here, so you could do it that way. You just delete those if you don't want to. So that's what the label is. You can't resize those. So the resizing is kind of, it is what it is, and you don't get much of that. You can add pictures straight from that little icon is the gallery icon. So if you want to find pictures, you can add pictures. The other things that you'll note is you could add, maybe you need students that have, they need some audio support for whatever reason. Maybe they're non-readers, or maybe they just need audio support. So you can click on here and you can add speech, or add, if you need that to, when they click on it, it says Christy. Or if you had it spelled out, the word spelled out, you can actually import and record your own voice. Or you could have something recorded that says whatever the word is. Or maybe you have a picture of a dog and you have a dog bark that you wanted to. So you can actually add sounds, or you can, so I could have a folder with some sounds, or I could record right in my toolkit. I can have it read it, or I can have it spell it. So these use the table's computer in there to do that. There's also, before I get to the end, there's also instructions, directions. So if I wanted to, on directions, you get directions one time. So if I had 6 activities within this one application, I'm only going to get directions once. So the directions need to be kind of generic, so to speak, or my activities all need to be the same kinds of activities. Like if it's a matching, you could say match the pictures to the words, or whatever it is. But you would have, so I could say match the pictures to the words. And it's very generic. Once again, I can import or read those directions. The last thing before I get out of this and preview it is, this is where my end place is. I have to tell it where my start position is. Where do I want those kids to start? Well, I don't want them to start over here. I'm going to left click and drag them up here. So I'm going to drag them to my center. You might want them to be closer or something. It's up to you. You can design these things. You know, these are nice things that, let's say you found something off the web on the Smart Exchange that you really wanted to change some of the pictures. You can go back in. That's when I ask if you had created or modified. You could go back in and modify things. Maybe you only want 3 of 5 activities or applications. You can have that flexibility. What you don't have much flexibility is changing backgrounds and things, so you can't like drag those backgrounds and adjust them, so you kind of have to start from scratch. So I have where the starting, and then the last thing is I'll preview it. What is it going to look like when I'm on the table? There's my directions, match the words, the pictures to the words. And now, see, notice I only have 2 yellow dots because I didn't finish that yet. So there's, if I put that there, the yellow dot is how I told it the in position. That's how the yellow dot gets there. And you can also copy and paste things if you needed to. You can copy and paste pictures if you wanted to. It's very linear sequencing. And then the last thing is save often. So you could save this if you wanted to as whatever you wanted it to be. So the file, we're getting down to the end, and the file that you have has last month with some hot spaces, so I encourage you to go watch that last session. I zipped through it. I'll probably do a review. And I'm also going to show you some, I'm going to start creating a little bit of some like 2-minute tutorial things, but I wanted to help you to get started. You know, start simple and start small. I also wanted to tell you, you know, I have those applications. So if I wanted to have, so notice I have Symphony. So this is how I added Symphony onto my application. How did I get it here? Well, when you go to the download page, and when you go to the Smart Exchange, sorry, when you go to the Smart Exchange, let's see. If I come in here and I'm inside of here, if I go to File Type, there is Applications, and I have this detailed inside of the file, but I can come up here and I can search for Symphony. And when I search for it, here it is. So I want to download this. So I'm going to download it. It's going to save. Let me go back here. So what it's going to do is I have some steps right here. It's going to download. You're going to save the file, and you get this little table icon. You will, when you have this on your computer, if you don't have the internet, you'll put that file, put that little icon, that file on your USB, and that's how you'll add it to your table if you don't have the internet. Same thing on your toolkit. If you double click, don't have the toolkit open, if you double click on the icon, it's going to open up the toolkit, and lo and behold, you'll have those applications there. So you have to download it first. You'll double click on your computer. You'll just double click on that icon, and it will then add it to your toolkit. Right now, once you get something there, you can't delete it, so make sure it's something that you want to add. Don't just go and add. You can have 50 apps, I think, in your listing of your toolkit, and so right now there's no way to remove some of these. That's why I have a bunch here, but you can add all of them if you wanted to. Some are not customizable. If I go to Scrapbook, notice it's not customizable. Symphony is not customizable, but it works on the table. All right, so we have a couple more minutes. I gave you some general maintenance ideas, cleaning. Here's the information about the Smart Exchange and how to download those. I did give you, Brady Megas was here last month, and she's got a file that if you're looking to build something, you might check her out on the Smart Exchange. It is a notebook file, so you probably, if you don't have Notebook, use smartnotebook.com to view it. I have added a couple of resources. The Smart Table Friend video help, and then last but not least, I wanted to, in the file that I've shared, we have an educator-to-educator network, and many of you have joined this network. But what we're doing is, rather than start posting a bunch of stuff into Dropbox and things, we have started this network. And so there's, in the files that I shared with you today, we'd love for you to join this educator-to-educator network. And the benefit of this is that anytime resources are shared, you'll have quick access to them. So there's a file there. How you get to it is the easiest way for me to do it is after I'm logged in, I just click on the training link, and it takes me to Course Park, which is the educator-to-educator network. So there I am. I have joined this network, so follow that PDF. Here we go. And the most important stuff is in this board. We do have a course. If you forget everything that I've said, you can watch this little free course, and I take you through how to find the board. So click on the board, And I'm going to start posting these recordings, but you'll notice that here's our educator to educator webinar. So if you're familiar or want to know about how to build something in Notebook, if you haven't joined these webinars, I encourage you to do so. And we also post the resources, and we have teachers that join us. So it's just a really nice way to, there'll be a tag for the table webinar that you'll be able to see the recording here. So I encourage you to join that. There's also a tech-to-tech network. So if you are interested in technical aspects of the table, there is a tech-to-tech network that has a fantastic table overview of the inner workings of the table. So your tech people are having questions. I encourage you to encourage them to join the tech-to-tech network or yourself. So hopefully that helped you to better know a little more about the table, a little more about building with the toolkit. November 25th is our next session, and we're going to have best practices. So questions, get your questions and answers ready. I'm hoping that Brandy will join us again. And hopefully I have answered all your questions. If you do have anything that I didn't answer or we need to get back to you, please email us at ed2ed@smarttech.com. So I know that November 25th, that's getting close to holidays, so hopefully you might be able to join us, and if not, we'll record the sessions and find those on the Ed2Ed network, the Educator to Educator network. Thank you so much for spending the afternoon with Tara and myself, and with that, I think I haven't been watching.
I think we're good, Heather.
Okay, perfect.
We've answered all the questions as they've been coming in. So
awesome.
all good. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.